Okay, today we're going to have a look at building zomes with WangerFlanges. I did a tutorial, it's a while ago now, that shows you how to draw the zome geometry on a computer. It's super easy. It's one of the easiest polyhedrons to draw on a computer. Uh, I'll put a link in the description to that, so go and take a look at that. But this is basically a zome 10, which means it has 10 zones, or it's based on a 10-sided polygon. That's the word. This is the midway split point, and that's where you'd naturally assume that you would split something. But with zomes, they tend to go split it at the next level down. As you can see by that line there, if we made that the ground line, the zome would come round and in a little bit at the ground, and that's typically how a zome's built. They don't go to the halfway point. These bright yellow triangles would be vertical, but it's not quite a nicer shape. It doesn't. It's they generally speaking they go to just past. Let me draw a box in. Right, there you go. That's your typical view. At last, that's your typical view of a zome. It comes in a wee bit at the bottom. Okay, let's take a look at building this with WangerFlanges. It is possible, but it's a bit of a nightmare. There you go. Right, what it is with the struts is we have to add these horizontal struts to triangulate these diamond shapes. There we go, that's better. So the diamond shapes are these the zome faces, but a diamond isn't structurally solid on its own. This structure with WangerFlanges probably couldn't be built. I've had a go before, and it can't really be built because everything can move on this structure. This could be wider or narrower, so you end up with an unstable structure. You have the struts back in. So this triangulation stiffens the whole thing. So if you want to build a solid zome, that's this is the framework underneath. You can still have a diamond flat panel on the outside, so it'll go back to looking nice geometry on the outside, but you kind of have to have this all of these horizontal bars, and they're all under tension, just so you know. Right, let's have a look at the WangerFlanges and a bit of a close-up of the joints. Right, what we have is we have six struts. This is each one of these struts is different for each layer. It's all the same around the zome, but there's a different one for each layer. And you can see with the WangerFlanges we have to have these spacers put in, because if I don't think I can easily show you, but if these two, for example, were back here, there would be a gap that you'd have to fill between the two WangerFlanges. So this is pretty much the only way you can get it to fit. Let's take a look at another one, and they're all different as well. See, this one here has two at the bottom there. They all fit fine, and the reason for that is and this one even isn't right. So we've got two at the top for this one, two at the bottom on this one, and 4 spaces on this one with only 2 that don't have spaces. The reason for that is that WangerFlanges like symmetry. If we look at this joint, what we have is we have a big gap at the bottom. We have a very thin one, and then a relatively big one here. So it's not rotationally symmetric. You could spin that 180 degrees and it would work, but that's why you've got the 2 spaces at the top and the 2 spaces at the bottom. Let's move up a layer. Now this is the worst layer, or one of the worst ones. It's not actually the worst one, but it's let's go to the top one, because that is the worst. Gives a good example of why zomes are difficult to do. If we look at, it's looking at the gaps between the angle between struts. This angle is, you can see it's nearly 90 degrees. This angle not similar. This angle similar-ish, but this angle is extremely acute. It's about 20 20 odd degrees, I would say. So what you end up with, there's no rotational symmetry to that hub at all. You can, if you spun it round, it wouldn't fit anywhere else, and that's the problem. WangerFlanges like to have symmetry. So if this top space in between these struts, the top angle is narrow, it's nice to have it symmetric, so it's narrow at the bottom. So with the WangerFlange, you can have a narrow at the top, narrow at the bottom, and two fat ones at the side. That works great. But this unevenness is what causes the problems. Right, let's have a go. Now if we go back to the top, you can see that this one works fine. There's no spaces or anything, but we have a hub of 5 different struts coming off. Those struts there don't need anything added. The top struts, obviously, they don't need anything added because that's totally symmetric. You've got all of the struts coming off at all the right angles. But when you get down the zome, you start to get the uneven angle situation going on. Now it's possible to make them, I mean, I'll do a set of plans like this, but you're going to need to know the strut lengths. It changes the strut lengths. In a zome, they're super easy because all the struts are the same length, but by the time you've added on these spacers, it changes the strut length subtly. Like I say, I will put a set of plans together to build this. This is a zome 10, so I'll put a set of plans together to build this. So at least you can try it if you want to, and this should result in a relatively stiff structure that you should theoretically be able to walk about on this. It's pretty strong. It should work fine, but I can't get away from, and I suppose once you've done the different joints and you know what they are, maybe that's not such a huge problem. But like I say, it's turned out to be a bit more of a pain than what I would like. I like things to be nice and simple. So I'll leave that with you. I am working on zome plans and I'm working on other methods to build zomes. So like and subscribe if you're interested to see how we progress with this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.